Welcome back, everyone. At the end of the previous lesson, I extended the challenge to make it so that when you click on the Add to Cart button, it added that product to the Stripe checkout cart. The second challenge was to make it so that when you clicked on one of the cart items trash button, that it removed it from the Stripe cart, as well as reloaded the table view and the payment information. So we're going to start out with the Add to Cart button on the products cell. So we're going to be working here in the product cell.swift file. And the first thing that we need to do is we already have a protocol for the product cell. We call it the product cell delegate. And right now we have it so that when we click on one of the stars for one of the products, that it calls this method, product favorited. And then in the products view controller, that is handled right here. Okay, so what we need to do is add a second method to our protocol, and we're going to call it func product add to cart. And just like the product favorited, we're going to pass along with it the product selected. And then down here in the add to cart clicked, all we need to do is say delegate dot product add to cart and then pass in the product. The rest of the code that is required for this to work has already been done. We're passing into the configure cell function the delegate. We're setting the product and the delegate. So that's all done already, thanks to having gone through that process for the favorite clicked function. So all we need to do is let's save this. And back in our products view controller, now that we have added a new method to our protocol, we should be seeing an error here. Here we go. So it says type products VC does not conform to the protocol product cell delegate, and that's because we just added a new method for it to conform. And so right under here from func product favorited, let's go ahead and say product add to cart. So now we are adding this method and we are now conforming to the protocol. And now here we can say stripe cart dot add item to cart and pass in the product. And let's save that and run it and test it. All right, so let's go into one of our categories and we're going to click on the add to cart here. And then let's check the Stripe cart. Ooh, and there we go. Very good. Let's add some more. Clicking on each of these. And now we have 3 here. All right, very good. So one thing I'm noticing here is that the UI labels looks like we have some constraint issues. So let's go ahead and go into our cart item cell and look at our constraint here. And sure enough, we don't have any constraints on this label here. So let's add constraints here. We'll say 12 from the left and 12 from the right. And then what we're going to need to do is set the trailing space. Instead of equal, this can be greater than or equal. And then we also need to center it vertically in its container. So it's vertically in container right there. And then we should be good. All right, so let's go ahead and test that out. Let's go ahead and add those back again. And that's looking better. All right, so one thing that we'll probably want to improve in the future is when we click on this add to cart, there's not really anything that's indicating that we are adding anything to the cart. So in the future, we might add something in here to make it so that the user can be assured that it's adding to the cart. There we go. So now we have 6 items there. Looking good. All right, so the next challenge was when we're in our cart, that when we click on the trash can for each product, that it would remove that product from the cart. All right, so let's go ahead and work on that now. We're going to need to start out here in the cart item cell. And just like for the product cell.swift file, we're going to need a protocol. We're going to need a delegate. We're going to need to keep track of the product. And then when we configure the cell, we're going to need to set the delegate for this cell to be the view controller. Okay, so for the cart item cell, that view controller is the checkout view controller. So let's start out here in cart item cell by creating a protocol. And this will be above the class declaration. So I'm going to say protocol, and the name that we give it will be cart item delegate. And we will provide one function, which will be func remove item, and we will pass the product that is selected of type product. Then here we need a couple variables. We're going to need to keep track of the product. In this case, we are calling it an item. So I'm going to say private var item of type product. And then we have the delegate. So I'm going to say week var delegate of type cart item delegate. And that will be optional. And we'll get an error here saying that it needs to be class. So back up here with the protocol, I'm going to say class. And then we're going to need to pass into our cell when we are configuring it. We're going to need the delegate so that we can set it. I'm going to say delegate of type cart item delegate. And then here we're going to say self.delegate is equal to delegate, and self.item is equal to product. And then we're going to just clean this up a little bit. And then finally, when we remove item clicked, we can call our delegate and say dot remove item and pass in the item to be removed, which is this variable right here that is set when we configure the cell. Then here in checkout VC, what we need to do is set the delegate. So I'm going to say fix, and the delegate is self. And we're going to get an error because we aren't conforming to that protocol yet. So I'm going to add that right here. I'm going to say cart item delegate. And then we will need to implement the method that delegate uses, which is called remove item. And now here we can remove this item from the cart using our method that we've already created in our Stripe cart singleton called remove item from cart. And all we need to do is pass in that product, and that will remove it from the Stripe cart. Then we can reload the table view data. So I'm going to say table view.reload data. And then we can refresh our payment info by calling our setup payment info function that we created in the last lesson. And just like that. So let's go ahead and test this out. I'm going to save it and run it. All right, let's go ahead and add some items to our cart. Go to our cart, and then clicking on the remove button there we go. So you'll see here that it changed the subtotal and payment information. So we're here with a total of $47.61. If I remove this one, that's about $30. It drops down to $16.75. And if we remove them all, it should zero out just like that. Very good. All right, so that finishes up our challenge that I gave you in the last lesson. We are now able to add products from our products view controller to our cart. And then in our checkout view controller, we're able to remove items from the cart here. Very good. All right, so in the next lesson, we are going to continue working with our checkout view controller and start getting ready to implement Stripe. Hope you're excited for that, and I'll see you there.